I want to read you a little bit from the Course in Miracles, certain sections that I have picked up from the text, to paint a picture about the need to look at special relationships. These are relationships that we have built based on coming together with somebody else, primarily as a romantic relationship, but this applies to all relationships. Now, what I'm going to read, if it does not make sense, keep an open mind, because as I continue reading, some things are going to give you more instruction. However, if you feel any resistance to what I'm saying, just know that the ego aspect of you, this is the part of you that is holding on to the programming in your mind, what you believe is true in your mind. That defending of that belief system is what the ego is all about. It's a righteousness about what I believe. Does that make sense? Because ego is not an organ, it's not a part in us. It is a belief system that we defend, and that's what is called an ego. If you were not right about it, it wouldn't affect you. It wouldn't trigger you. It wouldn't be a big deal. Like most of us are not going to sit here and argue about whether apples or oranges are better. We don't feel righteous about that. So the ego wouldn't be involved in that. But if we started talking about football teams, or we started talking about political parties, the ego would want to assert itself, because it comes with a sense of righteousness. Anything that is right, there's a right and a wrong, there's a polarity, ego's involved. If it's neutral and we're not going to fight each other over who likes apples and who likes oranges, then we are operating at a level of wholeness. It doesn't matter to me if you go eat an apple and I go eat an orange. So kind of be attuned to what's happening in your body as I read this. And I'm going to read a fair amount, and then I'll stop and make sure that we address some of these things. And then I will break it down so that you can see what I've written down here to give you the columns of what the ego uses as in relationships as special love and hate. And the Holy Spirit sees us as equals coming together for the purpose of creating something really, really beautiful, really holy. Not at all. So I am in the text in chapter 16. If you happen to have the third edition, I'm on page 338. Now I am going to be jumping around. So just kind of know it's quite a few pages that I'm going to be bouncing through, but it is in chapter 16. And chapter 16 is about the forgiveness of illusions. And it is using special relationships to explain this. So we want to forgive the illusion that we are separate from one another, in terms of not only are we separate, but we have a whole that the other has to fill for us. So we are forgiving ourselves for believing things that are not true about us, and using the relationship to reinforce that lack of wholeness. So, and I'm reading at the top of that page, 338. So I'm in chapter 16. The section is number 4. It's called The Illusion and the Reality of Love. And I am going to read from paragraph 3, and I'm starting at sentence number 4 for anybody who's following. So the special love relationship is not perceived as a value in itself, but as a place of safety from which hatred is split off and kept apart. This is speaking about what the ego does. The special love partner is acceptable only as long as he serves his purpose, or she serves her purpose. Hatred can enter, and indeed is welcome in some aspects of the relationship, but it is still held together by the illusion of love. Yes, I love you very, very much, but it really annoys me, all these things that you do, what you just said in front of those people, what you just did. You know, you didn't cook my meal the way I wanted it. You didn't put the toilet seat up or down the way I needed it to happen. You said you were going to take out the garbage. Yes, I love you, but I still have this little thing that I hate about you. So if the illusion goes, this is the illusion of love, that I really love you. If the illusion goes, the relationship is broken or becomes unsatisfying on the grounds of disillusionment. So the illusion of love, which is a conditional love, if you're not meeting my conditions, now I don't love you anymore. And this will the ego mind, our separate sense of self, will justify this. And when I talk about our ego, this is our immature self, by the way. This is the part of us that is operating at about the maturity of less than 10 years old, that is seeking for you, for somebody out there, to treat me the way I want to be treated by mommy and daddy. Because when we are not raised to feel whole, we go into adulthood thinking there's a hole in us, and we're always seeking for somebody to become our parent. Does that make sense? So we all, as adults, know that we have been with another adult, and they act like a 4-year-old. They act like a teenager. Well, that's because so that's because those aspects of ourselves that did not mature, because we were not raised by conscious parents, that immature part of ourselves is looking for wholeness outside of ourselves. Do you remember the movie Jerry Maguire, the line, "You complete me"? One of the worst things that has ever been put into the consciousness of humanity is the idea that anybody can complete us. Not only can the person not do that, but it puts a heck of a whole lot of pressure on our relationship to put that much responsibility on somebody else to keep another happy. So then he goes on to say in paragraph 4, love is not an illusion. It is a fact. We're talking about real love here. This is God's love. Where disillusionment is possible, there was not love, but hate. So if you are disillusioned by anybody in a relationship, we have to begin to understand that we really didn't love them. What was there was conditional love from our egoic self. We were looking to that person to make up something that was immature in us. But we discard them because we think that they didn't love us or we don't love them. But again, we never fall out of love. It's impossible. What we are is love. Why? Because love created us like itself. So if we are made of love by love to love, how can you fall out of love when love is what you are? It would be like saying I fell out of human and became a dog. You can't do that. So we have got to understand that anything that blocks love is simply an immature sense of self. That's it. That doesn't know how to love like God loves, like conscious people love, because we haven't done the work yet to heal that part of ourselves that has remained at an immature level. So I'm going to read this again. Love is not an illusion. It is a fact. Where disillusionment is possible, there was not love but hate. For hate is an illusion. And what can change was never love. And that is such a powerful line, and it's such a powerful part about the Course in Miracles. It is helping us understand what love really is, that most of us don't have a clue is what love is. I was in my 40s before I began to study the Course in Miracles. And actually I had just turned 50 when I started reading the Course. But it was in my 40s when I began to realize that I did not know what real love was. That what I thought was love was conditional love. It was the love that I gave to get something. And it wasn't until I really began studying the Course in Miracles that I got really clear about the difference between real love, God's love, true love, the love of reality, and the conditional love that is of the ego. So let me keep reading. Now we're going to jump down to paragraph 6. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Now here's the thing. The Course in Miracles is a journey in personal responsibility. Let me read this sentence again, and you will see where personal responsibility is very clear. Jesus channeled this material, and he does not use language that leaves any room for interpretation. It is absolutely very clear. Your task, the person who is doing the work, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So when you begin to read things like this and you realize, if love created me like itself, how could I have built barriers against love? Let me go find these barriers that I built against love. In the beginning of this journey, the ego does not want to say, I did this to myself. It wants to point the finger, mommy, daddy hurt me. My lover left me, it's their fault. The boss fired me, it's because they didn't appreciate me. My friend broke up with me because she doesn't see how wonderful I am, or whatever it might be. So we have to understand that the Course in Miracles is a course in personal responsibility. In the beginning, it is not fun because we're looking at the barriers that we built against love. So we're looking at all of the ways that we created our own dysfunction. But the flip side to this is if we begin to do what it says here, and that is that we begin to see all things as lessons God would have us learn. Every irritation is an opportunity. It's an invitation to reclaim my wholeness. Does that make sense? Do you like that?
Say that one more time.
That when we begin to realize, in the beginning, this journey of self-responsibility is to look at the places where we feel a lack of love, where we feel like there's a hole in us. So it's very uncomfortable to see that dysfunction in us, to see that we were needy that way. Then something happens when we see that everything is a lesson God would have us learn, and every lesson is a recovery of our wholeness. We see something else about us that is actually whole and complete, but we built a barrier against it. And the barrier is the belief that we hold about ourselves. So that little kid that runs in front of the television and the parents yell, that child creates a belief. The first thought is going to be, oh no, mom and dad are upset. That thought, over time, if it happens again and again, and I'm sure it will, because if the parents reacted that way, chances are there's a pattern of reaction. That child is going to hear over and over and over again, you're in my way. So that thought, you're in my way, turns into belief, there's something wrong with me. I'm what makes mommy and daddy, I'm what makes other people unhappy. So now there's a belief system that gets programmed into the mind that I'm the problem. So we have to do the unpacking of, well, if our relationships are not working, guess what? I am the problem. But not to deal with the problem because I am a problem, because people didn't love me, but rather there is a problem. And the problem is, I don't remember that I am as love created me. So instead of I need you to validate me, it is about I've got to validate myself so that I can begin to let go of the beliefs that I picked up as a child that was immature and unable to say, hey, mom and dad, stop making the television more important than me. I am the magnificent being. You wanted me to be here. Here I am. So let's just turn off all these electronics and let's just have family time. If that child was totally and completely confident, as kids today are, that child would have told the parents, hey. But if we didn't do that when we were little, then we carry a story, I'm the problem. Does that make sense? Can you guys relate at some level with some? Yes? Yep. Every time we talk about this, no matter where I am, no matter the audience, we can always relate to a level of these stories. So our task is for us to look at where we built barriers and blocked ourselves from knowing our wholeness, knowing that we are love. So it is not necessary, excuse me, it is not necessary to seek for what is true, but it is necessary to seek for what is false. So I don't have to seek my wholeness. I just need to question the thoughts and beliefs that I have that say I am flawed, I am broken, there's something wrong with me. We have to question those thoughts, because if we accept those thoughts as true, they block the truth, the essence of who we are, which is already whole. Because what we're acknowledging is God created us whole. There's nothing missing. We just had human experiences that began to give us evidence that is opposite to that are showing us that I'm not loved because mommy and daddy are watching a TV show. So I'm going to jump down a couple of sentences. This is sentence number 5 in paragraph 6. If you seek love outside yourself, you can be certain that you perceive hatred within.
Wow.
and are afraid of it. So this is a very powerful statement.
Say that one again.
If you seek love outside yourself, you can be certain that you perceive hatred within and you are afraid of it. Yet peace will never come from the illusion of love, but only from its reality. So we have to get really clear that what we are is love. And if I am holding a belief that there's something wrong with me because of what mommy and daddy said, that is a form of hatred, because I am now believing something that is not true. So I am accepting in my mind, I must hate myself because after all, mommy and daddy hate me. So that hatred that covers up that I am love, now instead of giving and receiving love, giving and receiving the feeling of love moving through me, which is one of the very important lessons that we need to understand, instead of me giving of my love freely to anybody and everything so I can receive the movement of the energy of love, I operate from, I'm going to give you the attention that you need so that I can get love from you. If I can get approval from you, if I can get you to make me special, then I feel good about myself. All the while in the back of my mind, I have this thought of hatred, which says, they might leave me at some point if they find out who I really am. And that's when we begin to operate inside of this deficiency that I'm not already loved because I don't understand what love really is, which is that love never, ever, ever can be anything other than what it is, but I can block it. So that's why this says that in that earlier sentences, that your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So I hope
you are now?
I'm on the same page. I'm at the bottom in paragraph 6, still in the same area. So what we are beginning to discover is that we actually have inside of us, our soul, our essence, our spirit, whatever you want to call it, the truth of who we are is the presence of love, blocked by our beliefs that we're not that.
That we're not
love.
love.
So we are love believing we're not. We are love believing there's something wrong with me. We are love believing I'm unlovable. We are love believing I've been abandoned by, my family, my parents, my boss, my friends, my country. So we are walking around believing that because somebody has rejected us, it means there's something wrong with us, and in that way we reject ourselves, which is what our own internal hatred is about, because we're operating at an immature level. Let me keep reading here. Yet peace will never come from the illusion of love, but only from its reality. So we want to get back to neutral. In neutral, that means there's no special hate, there's no special love, there's nothing good and there's nothing bad. We move to a place of becoming more grounded with what love is, becoming more aware that love is the essence of oneness. Love is the essence of what is the energy that we all share. When we get comfortable that we're all made of the same thing, then I don't need to get something from you. I don't need to protect myself from you either. There is a realization that we all have the same thing. We're just aware of it or not. That's the only difference. Once you begin to do the work of realizing that we're all made of the same love, because every single one of us, love created us like itself. God being but love, therefore so are we.